Hello students, today we're going to talk about determinants of matrices. If a matrix is a square matrix, meaning it's a 2 by 2 or a 3 by 3 or a 4 by 4, basically it has the same number of rows and columns, then we can assign to it a number called a determinant. Now, we're not going to do too much with determinants now, but if you take linear algebra, you're going to see several different situations where determinants are used, and we will look at one geometric example where a determinant will help us find the area of a triangle. But what I want to do now is talk about how we calculate determinants, and this depends on how big the matrix is. So first of all, we denote the determinant of a matrix A by writing DET and then A in parentheses, or we can put two vertical bars around A. Now I want to be clear, this does not mean the absolute value of A. When we put two vertical bars around a matrix or a letter that represents a matrix, this means the determinant of that matrix. So let's take a look at 1 by 1 matrices and 2 by 2 matrices, and then in the next video we'll look at 3 by 3 matrices. So if we have a 1 by 1 matrix and the matrix A has the element lowercase a, then the determinant of A is just the element inside that matrix. So if A was the 1 by 1 matrix whose only element was 4, then the determinant of A is just the number 4. This is not particularly interesting for a 1 by 1 matrix, but it gets a little bit more involved when we look at 2 by 2 matrices. If we have a 2 by 2 matrix whose elements are A, B, C, and D, and we want to take the determinant of that matrix, we do so by taking A times D minus B times C. So effectively we're taking the product of two diagonal elements A and D, and then subtracting the product of the other two diagonal elements B and C. So if we were dealing with the 2 by 2 matrix, for example, 6, -3, 2, and 3, if we wanted to know the determinant of this matrix, we would have 6 times 3 minus -3 times 2. 6 times 3 is 18, and a negative times a negative becomes a positive, and we've got plus 6, and 18 plus 6 is 24. So the determinant of A is equal to 24. There's another way of writing this, as I mentioned earlier, with these two vertical bars. In general, when we do this, we replace the brackets of a matrix with those vertical bars to mean the determinant of that matrix. So if we wanted the determinant of this matrix, we would write it with vertical bars, and this means 6 times 3 minus -3 times 2, which we just saw gives us 24. I want you to go through and do some of the example problems involving determinants of 2 by 2 matrices before you look at the next video where we look at the determinant of a 3 by 3 matrix, because being able to take determinants of 3 by 3 matrices is much more complicated, and it relies on already having the skill of taking determinants of 2 by 2 matrices. So we want to get that practice with the 2 by 2s first before we move on to the 3 by 3s.